I have to. Okay.
And formally from TIFR, he is going to speak on A1 fibrations of affine varieties. Professor Gurja.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure on this occasion of Patil's retirement from IISc. I will just start immediately with mathematics because we have wasted some time. So let me start with the definition. We will consider algebraic varieties over the field of complex numbers only. So a morphism from a algebraic variety W to V, it's called an A1 fibration. If F is dominant, that means the image contains a dense open set, and general fiber of F is isomorphic to the affine line. That is the definition of A1 fibration. So let me quickly recall the definition of logarithmic polar dimension. So you start with some smooth affine variety, embed it in a smooth projective variety such that the complement is a simple normal crossing divisor. So what it means for dimension 2 is that this divisor is a union of smooth irreducible curves. Any two irreducible components meet transversally and no three of them meet in a point. So let ky denote the canonical divisor of this compactification y. Then we consider the linear system h naught of y n times ky plus d. And suppose this dimension of this linear system is always 0 for all n bigger equals 1, then we say that the logarithmic Korea dimension of x is minus infinity. So this was a definition introduced by Ithaka. Now, two basic properties of kappa bar are like this. Suppose you have a dominant map from a smooth affine smooth variety x to another variety z, such that the inverse image of a general point is a finite set. So in other words, the map is quasi-finite. Then if kappa bar of x is minus infinity, then so is kappa bar of z. And in a special case of this is when x to z is a finite unramified map. So it is not only quasi-finite, but finite and unramified. Then kappa bar of x and kappa bar of z are always equal. This is a more general result, which I have not stated. So we start with a very important result due to Fujita, Miyanishi, and Sugie. They proved in 1979 that a smooth affine surface has log polar dimension minus infinity if and only if x has an A1 fibration x to c over some smooth curve c, which may be projective. It may not be always affine. So as the easy consequence of this result, they proved that the cancellation for C2 is true. Namely, if x cross C is C3, then x is C2. So this was a very important problem which they solved. Now, I come to some examples of A1 fibration. So it is well known that if you have a locally nilpotent derivation acting on an affine domain over C, then it is equivalent to giving an action of the affine algebraic group GA, which is just additive group of the complex numbers. So the way to get nice examples of A1 fibration, suppose you have a non-trivial locally nilpotent derivation acting on the coordinate ring of this affine variety X, such that the ring of constants, that means elements killed by the derivation, is a finitely generated C algebra. Then that corresponds to some affine variety, and it gives an induced morphism from X to Y. Then it's a fact that the general fiber of that map is A1. In fact, understanding these examples is very important in algebraic geometry. There is also a converse of this result, that when an A1 fibration can arise from a locally nilpotent derivation, but I will not go into that precise definition. Now, I mentioned that topology can be used in this study. So let me mention a result of Bialyk-Birula from Poland. So for any complex analytic variety, you denote by HI CX the cohomology with compact support of X with coefficients in the group Z. Then Bialnicki-Birula proved that if GA acts on an irreducible smooth affine variety, then HIXC is isomorphic to HIXGC. That means the compact support for I equal to 0 and 1. So here XGA is the closed subvariety of GA fixed points of X. And this shows that topology enters into study of GA actions in many ways. So this is just one illustration of that. Now I come to another important aspect of A1 fibration, namely describing singular fibers, because in general, the A1 fibration will have singular fibers. So suppose I have an A1 fibration on a smooth affine surface X. Then you can compactify X to Y such that this F extends to a P1 fibration F dash from Y to the closure of C. We say that a singular fiber of F dash is one where the fiber has at least two irreducible components. This is a very convenient definition here. So some important properties of this singular fiber of F dash is this F0 is always connected. F0 always contains a -1 curve. That means a smooth projective rational curve B whose self-intersection is -1. And if you have a -1 curve which occurs with multiplicity 1 in F0, then F0 contains another -1 curve. So you can contract such -1 curves in F0 successively and finally blow down F0 to a regular fiber of another P1 fibration on a blown down smooth projective surface. So using these properties, it is easy to prove the following result. So if F from X to C is an A1 fibration on a smooth affine surface, then every fiber of F is a disjoint union of curves isomorphic to A1, possibly occurring with multiplicities in the fiber. Now, I already mentioned connection with locally nilpotent derivation. So the result is that suppose F from X to C is an A1 fibration on a normal affine surface and the curve C is affine, then this arises from action of a locally nilpotent derivation on the coordinate ring of X, such that the kernel of that derivation is the coordinate ring of C. Now this result can be generalized to higher dimension also, but I will omit the statement. Now we come to singular surfaces, A1 fibrations on singular surfaces. So suppose you have a A1 fibration on a normal affine surface, which is not necessarily smooth. Then Miyanishi proved a very interesting result. The following assertions were most of them were proved by him. The first assertion is that every singular fiber of F is a disjoint union of irreducible curves isomorphic to A1. X has at most cyclic quotient singularities. Remember, X is now only normal, but its singularities can only be cyclic quotient singularities. And third is that if some irreducible component delta of a singular fiber occurs with multiplicity 1 in the fiber, then delta does not contain any singular point of X. So I just want to remark that I gave a simple proof of this using topology, and I proved the first assertion, namely the smoothness of all irreducible components, which was not proved by Miyanishi. Now there are also some results of this type when X is non-normal, but I will not mention them for lack of time. Now we'll go to higher dimension. What happens in the higher dimension? So there exists three-dimensional smooth affine varieties X such that the logarithmic polar dimension is -infinity, but X has no A1 fibration. So that if and only if condition is only for surfaces. So the example of Dubulo and Kishimoto is as follows. So there exists a smooth cubic hypersurface S in P3 such that if you look at the complement P3 minus S, it has log polar dimension -infinity, but P3 minus S has no P1 fibration. And this fact is closely related to the following famous result, that P4 has smooth cubic 3/4 T which are unirational but not rational. Now again, I'll come back to singular fibers, but when the variety has higher dimension. So now suppose dimension of X is at least 3 and X has an A1 fibration onto a normal algebraic variety Y. We want to understand what kind of singular fibers F has. So as a sample, I will just state the following rather important result. That suppose you have a locally nilpotent derivation on a smooth affine 3,4x and take the quotient, that the quotient corresponds to the ring of constants. Then that gives a map from X to Y. So suppose C0 is a one-dimensional irreducible component of the fiber from X to Y, then that one-dimensional component always A1. So the proof of this result is not so trivial actually. So now I come back to locally nilpotent derivations again. So you start with a smooth affine variety, but suppose it has many independent locally nilpotent derivations, independent in a very precise sense, but I will not go into the definition. So the very interesting case is when the number of independent locally nilpotent derivations is same as dimension of X. Even in this case, if the dimension of X is more than 2, then the structure of such X is not well understood. In case of X equal to 2, it's quite well understood. I will not go into the description. So I want to state two open problems in this connection. So first is that you start with a smooth affine surface, actually now again back to surface, whose integral homology groups are all trivial for I bigger than 0. So such a surface is called as a Z homology plane. They are very important in affine algebraic geometry. And suppose I have a non-trivial locally nilpotent derivation on the coordinate ring of X. So again, you take the kernel of delta. It is well known that the kernel is a affine domain. It is finitely generated. But the question is whether this affine domain is regular. This problem is open for last several years. After many people have tried, but so far there is no success. What one can prove is that this, I should have said, I'm sorry, I should have said that the quotient, not X, it can be proved that the quotient has at most one singular point and it is of E8 type. So this much is known, but then how to get rid of this singularity, it is not clear. Second important question is, you take smooth affine contractible 3/4, and suppose it has 3 independent locally nilpotent derivations. Is it isomorphic to C3? So this is another unsolved problem which is rather important. One reason is that so far there is no good characterization of C3 in terms of geometry or algebra. There are some partial characterization which are not very satisfactory. So one wants to have a nice criterion. So this is one of the questions, that if this contractible affine 3/4 has 3 independent locally nilpotent derivations, is it C3? So I want to just mention that recently Miyanishi, Masuda, and myself, we have written a book called Affine Space Fibrations, which had just appeared by Degreiter, publishers of Germany. And this book also deals with, of course, about A1 fibrations, but also there are many results about A2 fibrations. And the book is largely based on the research work of my collaborators, Marius Koras, Kayo Masuda, Miyanishi, Peter Russell, and myself over the last 35 years. So the book is written so that even non-experts, but somewhat advanced students can read it. Thank you.
Excellent. So thank you, Professor Gulzar. And I'm happy the book has come out right in time.
Yes.
And is it available in India or?
Not yet. Actually, I have myself not received the free copies yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I hope you also make an Indian edition at some time.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. I now open it to the audience. Are there any questions to this talk? He has given a lot of information,
Hello?
but they are difficult.
Hello?
So, Parmashri, you are having
Yes,
some
sir.
question? Yeah.
Sir, I want to know what is the definition of independent derivations means. Can it be told in few words?
Yeah, okay, okay. See, a derivation is roughly like a vector field. You know, at every point you have some kind of tangent vector. So independent means if you take a general point on the variety and you have delta 1, delta 2, etc., then you have tangent vectors corresponding to each of the delta 1s, etc. Then these tangent vectors, they are independent in the vector space at that point, basically. Suppose it's an origin, then you have these tangent vectors. They should be independent in the corresponding vector space. So this should happen at a general point on the variety. That is the definition of independence.
Is it same as saying that the derivations are linearly independent? Like, if any LND is a derivation, so we can think of them as elements of model of differentials, and then they are linearly independent there. Is it same as saying that?
No, no, it is not same as that.
It's not
No,
same.
no. I think this stronger definition which I just gave has to be given. We can also give in terms of you take successive rings of constants.
Okay.
So take modulo the first one, then you will get some affine domain. Then on that the second one acts. Suppose. So this transcendence degree should keep dropping every time. This is another way of saying, roughly.
But the second derivation may not restrict to the first.
Yeah, so I'm just assuming, for example, they were commuting.
But commuting, I think the result is known. That is clear.
Yeah.
Sir,
So in the precise definition was in terms of tangents I gave.
okay. So what is the difference between this A1 fibration and a cylinder like open set? In your definition of A1 fibration?
And what?
Miss A1 fibration is not that you're assuming all the fibers are A1. You're assuming
No.
General fiber.
General fiber. Yes. Yeah.
So is it
what
not seen as existing of an LND?
No. In general, not, because the base, you take the coordinate ring of the base, it should be inert in the coordinate ring of the ambient space. That is a necessary condition.
Okay.
And sufficient also. So inertness of the base ring is necessary and sufficient. I didn't state that because it.
For the existence of A1 fibration? Or?
No. Suppose you have A1 fibration from X to Y, where X and Y are affine. Then the coordinate ring of Y, suppose it is inert in the coordinate ring of X.
Okay.
Then this comes from a GA action or locally nilpotent derivation. Yeah.
Okay. That's a very simple. Thank you, sir. Very nice.
Okay. Thank you.
So, any other question or problem? Want to pose him a question? So,
I have already given 2 research problems for you.
Right. But you were going to say something about Patil, I thought.
But is there time? Is there time now?
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Okay. So, Patil and I we have been friends since 1979. When I joined TI as a postdoc and Patil was doing his PhD. And we were always interested in derivations very much. So Balwant Singh Patil and myself, we used to discuss derivations quite often. And after he went to Bangalore, I visited Bangalore several times. So I remember at least 3 times I had, great hospitality in Dilip's house. Now, coming back to the most recent developments, Patil, my student Buddhadev Hazra and myself, we are planning to write a book on the ramification theory. This should be ready in another year, I think. So on this occasion of his retirement from IISc, I would like to wish Dilip and his family a very happy and healthy life.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Gujar.
And I hope you are staying longer a little bit till 6:30 or so.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, then you can meet Balwant Singh.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay,
thank
sure.
you very much.
Okay.
Now we take a 1 minute break and then we